and say welcome to everybody. And I'm going to share my screen, just show a very few, 4 slides, kind of remind everybody what the focus of the studio has been. And so hold on just a second while I get my slides up. All right, hopefully everybody is seeing a slide that starts with microtransit and microclimate-oriented redevelopment for car-lite and car-free lifestyles. So just to remind everybody, it's quite clear Scottdale lies in the path of redevelopment. All around the edges of Scottdale, we're seeing change and a lot more housing, a lot more being built at much denser scales. And so the question that really is fundamental, we think, for the community is, how can Scottdale benefit from redevelopment and improved connectivity and having a few more neighbors, but not lose what everybody who lives in Scottdale loves about the community. So we listened to you, we met with you, we really enjoyed your feedback in the past. And so we have 4 multidisciplinary teams that have tested out now proposals to meet high performance targets on these 4 different kind of 100+ acre sites, and then to try to connect them together with more streets and trails. And so the sites, I think you probably remember, that is certainly one is the your DeKalb Farmers Market, and really integrating the plans that have already been permitted for the farmers market to expand, but to also now integrate into that a microtransit-oriented mix of uses. Similarly, along North Decatur Road, where the county has already approved an overlay district with an interest in creating a more walkable town center with more small businesses, we have a team that's been working on North Decatur Road. And then we have 2 teams that are both working on sites that include big properties owned by MARTA. Both the rail yard is one of the sites, and that sort of centers on the rest of the area around the intersection of East Ponce de Leon Avenue and DeKalb Industrial Way. And then the other site includes the MARTA bus maintenance depot and various properties, the light industrial properties along Laredo Drive and Rio Circle. So in both of those schemes, they have been working on quite different ways of integrating those into walkable mixed-use neighborhoods, with certainly including some adaptive reuse proposals. So this class is a class in urban design and environmental performance. It really is not a class that gets into the cost issues or very specific policy recommendations. But we do hope that it helps everyone involved envision the capacity for desirable change, and that we hope that this helps to start some useful conversations about Scottsdale's future. So lots to look at. I don't know if Tarek Raqqa has joined, but Professor Raqqa has also been very much a part of this studio, and his high performance building students have been part of the teams and really helping integrate microclimate decisions into the design of the urban design proposals. Because if we really want people to make more use of microtransit, which is on-demand van service, we need to make the area more walkable and more comfortable to be out with, comfortable to walk in summer, winter, fall and spring. So couple more, my slides are not advancing. Let's see. So yes, microtransit, that is something we've been, each of these schemes are all looking at, is on-demand van taxi service. And we're extremely grateful for working in collaboration with VIA, which has been providing this service in over 80 countries. They really are a leader in connecting VIA with public transit and really helping to serve that kind of last or first mile of access to other and integration with other transit systems that then begin to allow more households to get by with one less car and possibly even to become car-free, which both saves them an enormous amount of money, helps make communities less traffic, allow communities to become denser, but not have more traffic. And in fact, to have cleaner air and more access to nature. So part of how the system generally works with that integration of microtransit and public bus systems and private scooter companies and privately owned bicycles is by setting up mobility hubs where people can transfer from one of those modes to any of those other modes. So the premise of the studio has been to look at where it would seem to make sense to locate mobility hubs, and then to generally densify around those hubs in particular, and see, try to then allow a gentler form of more affordable density. So the final projects, this is the last slide, kind of is one of going from the Scottdale we know, which has some very large properties, but its industrial history tends to mean that there just aren't that many street connections. It's really, there are little pockets of walkability, but there's not very much walkability throughout this part of Scottdale. And so the new plans, which have been stitched together here of all four teams' proposals and showing some of the new trails, rerouted roads that are coming through, really aim to help increase a lot of that connectivity. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let's see. All right. So Tarek Raka, are you here? And do you want to say any words? I don't think Tarek is with us. So without any further ado, I think we can go ahead and start with team one. And I will invite the audience. The plan here is I've asked the teams to each try to keep their presentations to 15 minutes. They're not going to be able to show everything in all the detail that they've thought about it, but they'll certainly give you a good idea. And we will be publishing the students' work in PDFs online. They'll be accessible to the public through the Georgia Tech Library's public digital archive. We'll get those links out through Will and the MicroLife Institute. And then we want to see, we would love to hear your feedback. So we will, I think, try to take a couple of comments at the end of each team's presentation, and then we'd really love to get more general comments at the end. So with that, I'm going to pass it to team one.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us. We're just going to take a minute and introduce ourselves. My name is Patricia Rangel, and I am the MARC in our team.
And I'm Akansha. I'm from the MSUD.
And I think our third member is with us, but she may be silent at the moment. Miriam, was our HPBL student that helped us with all our climate analysis. All right, next slide. So our project, what we were really charged by the community at the stakeholders meeting to do was to create a town center for Scottdale. Our zone, our particular zone of the 4 that we'll be presenting today is actually in the center of Scottdale. And this intersection that you see on the screen between East Ponce and North Decatur Road is a central hub. However, we discovered, so our goal was to create a microtransit, microclimate town center that would serve Scottdale and the adjoining Clarkston, as well as the entire community of, we're about 7 miles out, 11 miles out from Atlanta. So we know that there's imminent change for Scottdale at the moment. The tenets of our project were threefold. We got to meet some wonderful residents of this area. Our zone is the most residential. It's not very dense, but it's the most residential of the 4 zones. Our tenets and principles are that we want to keep the artistic nature and community that was already in existence, that we want to promote the already self-sufficient, both environmentally and economically, culture that existed there. And thirdly, that we really wanted to do this in an incremental way to support people's ability to stay in the neighborhood and that gentrification wouldn't displace folks. Thank you. So the topography of this location played a major impact and influence in a lot of our design decisions and in our understanding of the existing conditions. There is about a 30-foot grade difference between this area. So the most red image that you see on the screen right now is the highest point of our zone, and the green area, the most green is the lowest part. So you can see there's a quick, if everybody can check for just a moment that they are on mute, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Can't help it, and I don't know how to turn my.
I think that was it. Perfect. Thank you. That the grade difference really didn't allow for the town center to be right at that intersection of East Ponce and North Decatur, because the climb up was a good 8% in slope. That would then make it much harder to find many of these places, as these sections demonstrate. So coming east onto North Decatur Road, as the picture shows, it's a slope of 8%. If you're coming west, the slope is about 6%. This topography definitely affected our understanding of the existing conditions in the street network. Some streets were not connected to one another because of those large difference of grades. And so we saw that people weren't necessarily being able to capitalize on all the assets that are on offer. Plus, on the right-hand side, you can see that there's this tremendous bike trail asset, the bike lane from Stone Mountain Trail that is right there, but these roads are quite dangerous to cross, and there are not a lot of sidewalks, that as we'll show in the next slide. So the walkability, even though there's many of the amenities in this zone are revolved around automobile businesses, but in general, in Scottdale, there was a disproportionate or surprising proportion of amenities that were related to the arts. And we saw, if you can see on the right-hand side, that dark red line is the only sidewalks that were available in all of our area. The walkability score of how easy it is to access different amenities currently is 45 out of 100, and our goal was to increase that. Site assets. So we have quite a few. Our area, aside from being the most residential, was also where probably the most civic centers were. So we had a theater on North Decatur. We have a Montessori school on North Decatur adjacent to it. There is a historic mill that is just on the southern part of our area. The creek is to our east, or to our west, forgive me, and some wonderful Ethiopian restaurants are right in the center of some of the highest points. Like I said, we had, I think, a very unique opportunity when we went for our tour to have personal in-home visits with some of the residents in this area. So Ken is a sculptor. He has an incredible sculpture garden in his front yard. Geraldine is the only owner of an Airbnb in that entire region. And John owns several lots that he has been flipping and has an amazing hand at building beautiful greenhouses. What we saw, especially with the analysis from Miriam, is that because so many of the amenities, especially north of North Decatur Road, are automobile businesses, that there's a lot of surface area, asphalt, that, you know, can increase the climate or the temperature of an area up to 22 degrees Fahrenheit. And that there was opportunities there for us to create kind of this car-free zone north of North Decatur, to bring incrementally more densification, because we knew that that would be necessary if we were going to bring these rich mobility rich areas into the area, and to take advantage of some of the existing buildings that could be rehabbed and are in process of being rehabbed and making them more commercially viable.
All right. So overlaying the county's plan, we envision a town center through the lenses of public realm, social infrastructure, different building types, and sustainability. We hope to achieve car-free living, walkability, dynamic streets with more tree canopy, artistic culture, and of course, more housing. So we then went on to conceptualize our design targets by connecting streets, creating pause points or a moment to experience more green infrastructure, and then develop around it. So after doing all of the analysis, we believe that the mobility hub would be best placed at the higher ground, as Patricia already mentioned, which lessens the speed of cars on North Decatur Road as well. So in the smaller diagram that you can see, we have our car-free zones, car-light zone, and the car-heavy zones are mostly on the periphery of the entire site. And that's how our plan would look. We have three zones, the Mill Center, Civic Center, and the Town Center. The Mill Center is about retrofitting the mill to be an artisan square with more housing towards the south of the mill, with about 240 units, which does not look the way it is right now. We're trying to kind of blend into the language of the existing single family housing, but it has way more units than you see. And then that leads to the retail pedestrian strip up north to the Civic Center, which is completely pedestrian walkable. And we're trying to retrofit the storage unit that then becomes a resiliency hub and have lots of community gardens around it. Which then again leads up to the North Decatur Road and a mobility hub right here at the heart of North Decatur Road with many transit options, which then leads us to this super block or the town center with a complete walkable retail space. And we also have a lot of housing that we are trying to recreate from the cul-de-sacs planning.
The main street is taking advantage of some of the initiatives that are already in place. So we learned from our last review that an art corridor was going to be started from the railroad moving westward. We wanted to take advantage of the topography by bringing playscapes to the mixed commercial and residential area. Absolutely leave some of the iconic restaurants like Piazza. The mobility hub would be at that high point that Kancha mentioned, and then a town center that to make sure that the super block was not an exclusive area, but one that was welcoming to all, placed in the town center right inside that super block area so that everybody had access to it.
So yeah, this is how we believe our town center would look like. We have different hierarchy of streets, but completely walkable, allowing most services to enter, like trash services or fire trucks, but otherwise it's completely going to be walkable. We hope to make it completely self-sufficient, both socially and economically. So these are a few illustrations trying to show that. Our few initial vision of the sketches of our town center was to look like this, where we have different transit options, more seating on the street, could be completely vibrant and lively.
And as you look at Akancha's beautiful drawings, I just want to mention that in our site visit, in many ways, this street, which is currently Alcove Street, was already almost more a pedestrian street than a car street. As we drove around, people were walking in the middle of the street because the entry from East Ponce is so awkward that in some ways we're just using the natural gifts of the site to enhance.
And then we talk about the mobility hub. Here we're trying to show the different types of transit options that we're trying to incorporate. And overlapped with Miriam's HPB analysis, we're trying to have a net positive mobility hub. Yes. And then a few more sections of the Not Decatur Road, trying to incorporate on-street parking, bicycle lanes. We have a road diet from 4 lanes to 2 lanes of vehicle movement. And then the same that replicates a bike lane and an on-street parking with large sidewalks. So the residential in the superblock is recreated from the cul-de-sac cul-de-sac units, the Muse homes from Optico's design, and many more townhomes that we're trying to bring in this part of the superblock. Another section that kind of shows the engagement and the type of community that we're trying to propose. So continue. Yeah.
That the resiliency hub, the storage unit that currently exists, a tall building, it's on the highest point. Our idea is to not knock it down. That environmentally wouldn't be a great idea, nor to take away the storage component, but to know that in the future, to be responsible, to be attentive to this community, we want to build it into as a resiliency hub. Meaning that there would be PV panels on the roof collecting energy. There would be cisterns collecting rainwater. We discovered that we could have, I believe it's like 80,000 gallons of water, over 4,000 showers or 4,000 loads of laundry done there. In case of an emergency, hopefully what we would not have on a daily basis, there would be a place for the community to gather. But in the meantime, that it would also be a place for the community to gather in terms of these community gardens, taking advantage of the gifts of the residents in building greenhouses and just creating a lively spot in the center of Scottdale. This is part of that vision. And then leading down to the Mill Village, right, is that pedestrian walkway that would intersect here. And be some commercial spaces as well as resident spaces with more sidewalks and more walkability for residents. These are some examples. Akancha did a wonderful job of kind of explaining us wanting to really honor the style that's already existing. This type of housing is called missing middle housing. It looks like the traditional stuff that is in Mill Village, the historic Mill Village, but there are many more units in these structures that we are hoping so that it can blend up to cedar Brook Drive, where there are, you know, larger complexes of apartments. And so this is kind of a renovated mill with some of the housing that could be adjacent to it. And then our last point is really that our regulatory plan is that we want this to be incremental. We want smaller lots so that it becomes accessible and affordable to new homeowners or those that are being displaced out of Atlanta, and that it can grow in a way that feels comfortable for everyone. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, terrific. So we actually have, you guys finished more than on time. So we have some time for some comments and questions.
Well, it was music to my
Leaders, what do you think?
it was music to my ears when I heard smaller lots. I think that's so you're on point, team one. Thank you so much. And again, I think the idea of phasing as well as really utilizing the topography to your advantage in this plan was just great. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I definitely concur. I think the that discussion of smaller lots and just better use of space, I think, is very crucial as we try to design a master vision for, I think, this Scottdale project. I definitely like reference to the super block. I think that to me is something that I've been hearing about for years, and I think the idea of bringing forward a super block concept in DeKalb County, I think, would be one, just great for publicity and just showing that we're forward thinking, but also for, I think, the larger, Scottdale community to have that, that environmental attribute, which, I think is a really, really positive one, all things, considered. So really excited about this. Yeah, I think that was it. Yeah, great job, team. Really enjoyed it.
Anyone else? Don't be shy. How about, do you guys, maybe the team, if you want to flip back a little bit through some of your drawings slowly, I'd be interested to know, I mean, how the community feels about the idea of the superblock being car free, but mobility rich. Do you think that is realistic for Scottsdale? Would you like to see that option? Well, I think you guys did a great job presenting.
Well, I'll just say, Ellen, I think that is a great question, because it's there's so many other departments that you'd have to kind of coordinate to like actually make that happen. But I will say that we are voting later this year on our SPLOST, which is a $600 million exercise for DeKalb County, and under the SPLOST rules, we can spend some of the those funds on transit, as well as transportation infrastructure. So, I think this is a great timing to help inspire the leaders in DeKalb to think about what might be an investment in the future. And this is, to me, this is a great opportunity to pilot out some of these methods. Because I don't know if there is I don't know if anyone knows of a location, maybe elements of the areas near the Beltline, maybe, but I don't know if there is a true pedestrian only street, but like you say, with that kind of that transit piece of it. So I think that would be exciting to try to move forward. But yeah, you're right. It's you got to like get other players involved.
Commissioner Terry, I'll also say I learned so much in this studio. And I think some of the precedents that I got to witness about the superblock threw me out of my ignorance. So what I mean by that is, even though it's car free, it still needs to be designed where in case of emergency, fire trucks can get in and help people, right? So I think it's sometimes a misnomer when we hear car free, like, oh my gosh, how am I gonna how is somebody gonna get to me if I need to? That I will claim ignorance prior to the studio that I don't know that I fully understood. So I think the marketing of it is also critical.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's, it's like, if they say, if you build it, will they come? But I think in some of these exercises, we have to build it and then we have to like make sure they come, try it out. Ask Will about the cottages on Vaughn. I mean, we've been taking people on tours there for over 2 years now, going to a third year, and people have to see it to believe it. So you're right, they have to experience. Of course, I went to Barcelona a few years ago and experienced the superblock system, and so on the third day I was like, this is amazing, like we should do this everywhere. So you got to see it to believe it.
Great. We have a hand raised by Kathleen.
Hey guys, how are you? I think this is fabulous. I always come down to the land and what the property owners of the land thought about your development.
That's why we're presenting. We're hoping that some of you will know that and will tell us.
Oh, I don't own that land, so I can't make comment on land I don't own. But
Sure.
I just wondered if what the overall, I think it's wonderful, but I just was curious.
No, it's a really important point, and there's a limit to how much in a school project, honestly, just how many people we're able to talk to in the course of the semester. So we're hoping to start some conversations, but we don't know either.
Well, I think it looks fabulous. So
thank you, Kathleen. It's nice to connect with you again.
And I'm sorry, I've been out working on houses. I look terrible. Otherwise, I would be on video.
That's okay. Before we go to the next team, I want to actually call on Zach, who is joining us from VIA. So he's with the company that runs the microtransit and knows a little bit about mobility hubs. Zach, do you have any comments about the mobility hub design here?
Hey, Ellen, I'm going to keep my video off. I wouldn't say that I had any comments specifically about the mobility hub design, but just to echo what other people have said, I love the concept of applying the super block idea to like a more suburban and low density environment. And so in some ways, I wonder if like the real mobility question then becomes, or let's say one of the more important mobility questions then becomes how you connect the super blocks to each other in like an efficient way. And ideally that's something that microtransit could do, but other forms of mobility as well.
Absolutely. All right, I'm going to move us on. The order has just changed. We have a little conflict with team 2. So team 2 is going to go next. And team 4, I hope you got the email from Miguel. Team 4, you're going to be last again. So team 2, you're up.
Hey everybody, my name's Madeline. Give me 1 second to go ahead and share my screen here. All right, can you guys see the screen? Is that looking good?
Yes. Okay,
awesome. Well, just to quickly introduce myself, my name is Madeline Smith. I'm in the MSUD program, and I'm also a senior planner for the city of Dunwoody. And if my teammates also want to hop on and introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Honorata. I'm the high performance building member of this group.
I'll go. Hello, my name is Miguel, and I'm a dual architecture and city planning student here.
Hi, I'm Anu. I'm from MSUD, so Masters of Science in Urban Design.
All right, well, to kick us off, our site is the DeKalb Farmers Market. And so our site is all one single owner. It's a single 100-acre property where the DeKalb Farmers Market sits. I'm sure you guys are all familiar. with this property. And overall, our hope is that this project that you see here reflects the needs of the market and its future expansion, and also meets the community's needs for Scottsdale. And through the course of this process this semester, we were really inspired by the principles of the owner's market, or the principles of the owner of the market, Mr. Blazer, and also the car-free opportunities that microtransit through VIA can provide. So just really quickly, the farmers market is a regional destination attracting people from all over the Atlanta metro. And currently the only formal access to the site is right here off of Ponce de Leon. And the reason the access is so limited to this site is due to the extreme topography. One of my favorite things that we learned during our community engagement at the beginning of the semester was that people called this huge retaining wall the Great Wall of Scottsdale, and that is, you know, extremely apt. And that was a challenge that we really tried to deal with. To get people to be able to access this site from all sides and make that an enjoyable experience. So there is a plan for the future development of the site, and that was approved by DeKalb County a couple of years ago. And it proposes an additional 1 million square feet of retail space and 3,500 total parking spaces. And overall, what you see highlighted in yellow, that's about 30 football fields worth of parking. It's a really large surface parking lot, and there are some pretty negative implications from that style of development. There's issues with stormwater runoff, the urban heat island effect, and it's also extremely car-oriented. And so with that in mind, we thought, okay, the market is expanding, but you know, maybe there's a better way to go about this. And we want to enhance the DeKalb farmers market and have it, you know, actually reflect the owner's philosophy of connecting people and food. And so we've utilized 3 strategies to help achieve that vision. So the first is to unlock the development potential of the site. The second is to enhance mobility. And the third is to incorporate eco-conscious design. First strategy for unlocking the development potential, it essentially boils down to we need to consolidate that surface parking into a parking deck to free up those 30 plus acres of development. And, you know, we believe that there are so much more positive ecological, economic, and social benefits that, you know, a new car-free development that can provide. And it provides more benefits than, you know, a parking lot ever could.
So also what we realized about the site is that it is accessible, but not necessarily connected to the different MARTA bus routes that are going through the site. So in our proposal, what we are recommending is to reroute Route 120 so that it goes in front of the new market and it becomes a mobility hub that serves the different parts of the site here. And also by having a mobility hub at the center of this new farmers market, we would also have a series of streets that increase walkability, and you would have a walkable, car-free neighborhood that people will be able to enjoy, and people will be able to experience a connection with others and with nature in this new setting.
So with the change of topography that we see in our side, with deforestation and cut and fill, we see an urge for more urge to protect the natural ecosystem to cater to the future problems like stormwater runoff, flooding, drought, etc. Next. So with this urge, we are bringing the greenery into our site, and this becomes an amenity to car-lite neighborhood that we are designing. Next. And with the greenery, we are providing natural boardwalks that respond to the topography of the site, and this creates an experiential amenities to the site. Next. We are also proposing urban agriculture, and we are proposing it in the form of greenhouses on the top of farmers market. That will provide job opportunities and also a learning education, also an educational learning experience for the community.
And
Next.
to add on to that, oh, sorry, can you go back? So using some back of the envelope calculations, we found that with the site consumers that we have, our proposal will will cover 100% of the food demand on site. It can create up to 32 jobs for the acreage of the greenhouses on top, and it can generate up to $8.4 million in revenue. Next. Next, oh, sorry. In addition to this, we're also proposing rainwater harvesting throughout the site. And here you can see the water usage that occurs throughout the residences that we are proposing. And using the roof areas that we have of these buildings, 101% of water usage on site can be covered by rainwater harvesting. Next.
So we are leveraging the existing water features in our site and creating a system of water networks that caters to stormwater runoff and helps in water infiltration in our site. So this we are doing through like daylighting the drain and redesigning the stormwater retention ponds. Next. So the stormwater retention ponds, they not only add up to the amenities, but also helps in water filtration and carbon reduction. Next.
So one of the final eco-conscious design strategies we are proposing is photovoltaics on the rooftops. If you just put photovoltaics on the existing DeKalb County Farmers Market roof, that would cover about 17% of energy use on the site. Whereas if you include the optimal roofs on site, that would be up to 49% of energy use on site would be covered by photovoltaics and renewable energy. Next.
So our intent is to create enrich public spaces throughout our site. So we are this we are doing by activating the spaces along the ponds, the farmers market, and the central park. Next. And then we are creating additional diagonals and central access and integrating them with a pocket of green, pocket of open spaces. Next. These spaces are further connected to a meandering pockets of green spaces that is connected to narrow alleys and create a lively, walkable pedestrian experiences. Next.
So this is our overall master plan, which we feel has incorporated these three strategies. What was previously an island in Scottsdale, would be more connected and integrated into the community. We've essentially left Mr. Blazer's plan intact. And so as a result, we've focused our design strategies in three key areas. So we've focused on the creation of the car-free neighborhood, and we've also focused on creating a really great central public space and mobility hub and gathering place. And then we've also focused on developing the edges of the site to invite people from the surrounding community into this property that was once really cut off from the rest of the area. So within our development, we are envisioning a couple of different types of housing and mixed use buildings to infill this area. So within the actual car-free neighborhood, we want to keep it really human scale, really, traditional neighborhood scale, not really going over more than 2 or 3 stories. And the types of built environment, it's very traditional in appearance, but it does allow for more density. So all of our units are technically multifamily, even though they're still that, low rise, small scale, smaller buildings. And then we also have our mixed use buildings on site. We're proposing some options for live work townhomes, and we think that provides a great opportunity to small business owners. And also we have larger mixed use areas that line our public plaza to activate that space, and also mixed use along Ponce, again, to activate that street and make it much more lively and enjoyable to walk along and explore.
So here you can see on the block level of each neighborhood how our food, energy, water nexus is incorporated and can be seen, and also the unseen. So you can see the solar panels on top of the roofs. You can see rainwater harvesting tanks under ground under the houses, as well as some that are visible from the street level as well, and the greenhouse that can be seen from the street. And to summarize, the proposed performance achievements is 100% food production, 49% renewable energy, which, looking further, we can consider using building integrated photovoltaics in order to reach the full 100% renewable energy on site and 101% recycled water on site, used on site. Next.
So where we wanted the food, water, and energy and people nexus was right in front of the new market. And in order to do that, we wanted to put a mobility hub so that there would be access to the farmers market and to the many amenities that are offered in the site. And as you can see here, people would be able to come from the mobility hub and go directly to the market, but also go into this plaza that we're proposing in front of the market. And these are just some of the concepts that we were really thinking about when developing the mobility hubs. And essentially what we wanted to have in front of that mobility hub and the market is this gathering space where people not only from this new walkable community would come and gather, but also people who came to the market, they could come, and while they're waiting for something or they just have time, they can go into this park and experience it. And what happens here is that this park is a stormwater retention pond, so that it would flow and people would be able to go and interact with the water as it's going up or down. So it creates a very interactive amenity to this site. And again, these are some of the concepts, and what the plaza really focuses on is connecting food. There will be restaurants on the edges of the park, water, there will be the stormwater retention pond, and the many different other types of amenities, and then people, so that everyone can come together and develop a sense of community here. And this is a plan and a section of this park so that you can get a better sense of what the different spaces, instead of having a long park, there would be several different spaces and ambiances that you would experience as you walk from one side of the park to the other.
So our new car-free neighborhood is what we're calling Market Square. And yes, I know it's shaped like a rectangle. That's just not as catchy of a name. So Market Square, within a 3-minute walk, you can reach anywhere on site. So the mixed use plaza, the mobility hub, the DeKalb Farmers Market, and you can also reach the edges of the site so that you can go and explore the rest of Scottsdale as well. So within the neighborhood, there are a series of semi-private and semi-public spaces. We've really wanted to incorporate green space as an amenity. And so we see that these different spaces would have different types of functions. So you could have more interior courtyards that are a little bit more private, and you could add things like outdoor kitchens and places to sit and places to gather. And the green spaces that are more on the edges of the blocks can serve those more functional uses. So for example, your community mailroom and package lockers, bicycle racks, and trash collection. And this is just a scene showing you what it would be like to take a walk through one of the neighborhood's mini pocket parks. I like to think that the woman on the little bench there, I think of her as my proxy. She's like sitting there eating ice cream. So
our third strategy is to develop the edges in such a way that it connects the existing surrounding with the site with respect to the topography of our site. So the edges create a green infrastructure that brings people around the site to the from the surrounding to the site. Next. And then we are developing this nodal edges with stormwater parks and linear gardens, boardwalks and trails. Next. And then we are connecting these areas with the routes that is vehicular routes that also respond to the topography of the site. Next. So this is the overall plan for how we are developing the edges. So we can clearly see that it is integrated with the surrounding, and the main idea of the edges is to encourage more walkability into our site. Through the parks and green infrastructures. And so moving ahead, we'll talk about the details of the site. So first is the stormwater park on the north, which has this senior housing and then boardwalks. And next. So this is the view showing the senior housing in the left, and on the right there is a stormwater pond. So this is how it looks like. Yeah. Next. And this is a view from the boardwalk, like how it looks. So we want to create a different experiences for the people here. Next. And this is the stormwater park on the west, where there is like mixed-use buildings, and there are pavilions, and then there are like boardwalks. This is the intent is to reactivate the west entry from the Gap Industrial Way. So this becomes another additional entry to the site. Next. So this is the view from the west entry to the site through stormwater park. Yeah. Next. So this is from these are the linear parks. So basically we want to create a different public experience through urban arboretum and encouraging more walkability and bikeability. Next. So this is the linear park in the east, and those are like integrated with boardwalks, natural boardwalks. Next. So this is how it looks like. So this will be like people can become close to nature, and they can learn from the nature. Yeah. Next. So regarding phasing, we are starting with the phase 1 along the ponds, and then to a farmers market. Then second phase would be the neighborhood development, that is in the lower bottom lower, and then third would be the development on the top north, and then third would be that, and the fourth will be on the west side, that is like mixed use development. Yeah. Next.
So overall, in conclusion, parking lots suck. Isn't this better than a parking lot? But for real, the DeKalb Farmers Market is an Atlanta institution, and we really want to propose something that would center and enhance the market, and also make this site more economically useful for the owner, and more socially and ecologically beneficial for the existing residents of Scottsdale and any future residents of this area. So thank you all for your time today.
Great job, right on time. Let's get some comments, questions. You guys
Well,
might want to slide your slides back to the, maybe to the master plan, or not quite sure, you know.
I mean, to reiterate what Madeline said, parking lots do suck. Sign me up. I mean, this is, I live near this and I would love to see this happen. Really enjoyed just how you have thought about the full, I mean, you know, aging in place, integration of, you know, everything from starter to living there full time to aging there. And just incorporating everything from the green roofs and producing its own food, making this almost like a well, you know, the Disney of food destination, if you will, of being able to allow people to really interact with the mission of the Your DeKalb Farmers Market. So kudos. I really enjoyed the presentation. Thank you.
This is Duke from Cul-de-sac. Just also wanted to add some really excellent work here. I think you did a great job of combining both the more public spaces and green spaces. A lot of great progress on the sort of clarifying the block structures and developing a little bit more of a specific sense of place within each block. I think you have a very interesting and unique challenge here relative to some of the other sites where you have an owner and you have one consolidated owner and you have one sort of like vision that you're trying to sell relative to what's existing or what's planned. And I think a lot of what you have come up with in terms of, you know, more ecological production and more, you know, open space and creating like in the park an opportunity for people to linger on site, like those are all really attractive, and that maybe, you know, in a potential future iteration that, or even just presentation, that helping to tie those things to why that brings, you know, more patrons or more money or, you know, revenue or things like that into the site, that yeah, at the end of the day is sort of how you convince that seller or explain to that seller why it's a better plan to do. So, but really excellent work.
Thanks, Duke and Will. I mean, this is another case where we have not spoken to Mr. Blazer. We've heard quite a lot about him. We've read, we feel like we know that he has a very idealistic outlook in many respects. And so we're hopeful he would respond well to this, but we don't know.
That's a great point, Ellen. I think the students did a great job of you know, basically assuming that the plan that he's already put forward in his application will move forward, and this is really picking up the space, which, you know, is a giant parking lot. So I think that was really smart. Appreciate y'all's you know, kind of consideration on that, to not kind of go in and change everything, but just to work with what the existing plans are. And I have reached out to his team, so I'm trying to get a meeting with them to to talk about this in more detail. So keep y'all posted on that. But great work, everyone.
Mr. Blazer also owns quite a bit of the property that Team 1 showed, the first presentation. So it's actually worth talking to him kind of about the whole thing. He owns quite a lot of property in addition to the farmers market.
Yeah, I know I came on late. This is Sylvia, but great job. I love this concept, and I love that you all took into consideration what he's trying to do and incorporated a great plan into it.
Thanks. James.
Yes, I was curious. I didn't hear what Mr. Blazer was trying to do here. What are his plans for the site, and how would this interact with that?
Yeah, let me go back a few slides just to show the plan that was approved by the county. So it's essentially this new large building here outlined in blue, and then a small addition to his old farmer's market, and then this yellow is all the new surface parking lot.
Okay. Is it possible that the absence of that parking lot would make him want to change those plans? Is that something y'all thought about at all?
So when we thought about decking the parking, that's, I think, the one thing we're worried about is we're proposing decked parking in this part of the building, but that's currently proposed for warehouse space. So I think that's probably the biggest question is, whether or not he would be open to utilizing that warehouse space for a parking deck and whether he would be willing to make that kind of investment.
Okay.
We understand that he most likely would not be interested in selling the land, but he might, maybe what we've discussed are things like he might be interested in a long-term ground lease and let someone else really do the development, but that he is still the owner. Or, perhaps he does want to get into actually developing projects. We really don't know, but we think there are definitely different options available for him.
Well, what I was thinking is that the plans put forward seems like they would drastically disrupt day-to-day operations. So it may change his thinking there. Like if he were to accept it, he might want, for example, like a new market built on the site on the other side that can be completed first and then opened, and then work on the back half of the site where the existing market is, or something like that. That was just the kind of thing I was thinking about.
Mm.
The students did actually consider, the students took his plan as given, really, as that they didn't want to mess with that he knows his business. So the service route from that he is proposing in terms of, so he's proposing that the existing farmers market becomes warehouse. And so the students have incorporated a loop sort of behind the yellow that would be where the service parking would go. So it wouldn't cut through the residential part, but it would just loop behind it.
Okay,
Maybe
makes
not
sense.
ideal, but we think it's still possible, and there's still room for trucks to turn around in his loading. We've kept the loading docks. We've kept all that really pretty much. I mean, the students kept it as he showed it for the most part, other than changing that part of that building at the front becomes a parking deck. Is really the only big change. All right, we'll have more. We can have more discussion at the very end, but I do want to keep us moving to keep us on time. So team 3 will now present next. And let's see, Jacob Vallow is, not sure why I'm suddenly echoing. Jacob Vallow is here, but on hold. I don't know what that means. I'm going to try to ping him and let him know that that we're starting with the MARTA sites.
Should we wait?
I'm Robin Boyd. I'm on.
Oh, great. Hi, Robin.
Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you.
Hey, Ellen, Larry Prescott. I'm the AGM of Design, Engineering, and Infrastructure, so I got you covered.
All right. So the next 2 teams both have the MARTA sites. So perfect. Thanks for joining. All right, team 3.
So just start with our introductions. My name is Matt McDonald.
I'm Danya from the MSUD program.
And I'm Max from the High Performance Buildings class.
So, yeah, and our project we've titled Powering the Future. We're going to be looking at the electrification of MARTA's bus fleet, upgrading light industry, and integrating car-free living into a resilient mixed-use and work-centered neighborhood in Scottdale's light industrial zone. So this first image is kind of our proposal for the light industrial space being preserved and enhanced to accommodate. We're kind of speculating this on future modes of light industrial production, while also coexisting with mixed use residential and other commercial areas surrounding the site along Laredo. This project is kind of like celebrating light industry as well as the creation of sustainable energy.
This is a concept diagram that shows a more focused, zoomed in version of what's going to happen in our site. As you can see, the site sort of neighbors the DeKalb Farmers Market. So the primary idea was to retain the light industrial character of the space and to enhance MARTA's presence and also provide amenities for the bus facility. And towards the northern portion of the site, which abuts the East Ponce de Leon, we want to have a more diverse mix of buildings in terms of retail, mixed use, and residential typologies.
And just looking at the existing site and its land usage, the site is entirely composed of the light industrial type. And this includes MARTA's Laredo bus facility. This bus facility is a major player here and composes approximately 30% of the land area. So our site sits directly in the path of development on all sides, with the new Publix and apartments starting further down on East Ponce, a newly expanded downtown and new multifamily developments in Avondale Estates to the south, and as we just discussed in the previous project, a tripling in the size of the DeKalb Farmers Market. So we're proposing the creation of this sustainable, resilient community that will preserve and adapt the existing light industrial use type in the face of encroaching development. And if we look at this diagram, we're here indicating where the light industrial zones are currently located in the county. What we can observe is that there's an apparent lack of these zones, and the ones that do exist have been pushed to the periphery. The Scottdale site is unique in the sense that it has not been forced out. Not yet. So future recession and diminishment of light industrial zones in the county is pretty foreseeable in the face of continued development.
This is an example, a diagram showcasing what went inside evaluating the existing industrial buildings on site. So we evaluated the light industrial buildings and we sort of determined whether they're aesthetically significant and on whether they serve a purpose and if they're in good condition to serve the needs of the future light industrial fabric that we sort of intend to put in place. So we advocated for the preservation of most of the structures that are present on site.
And then going back to MARTA, with them being kind of the key player here, we're looking at how they're going to be electrifying their entire bus fleet by 2040. And we're interested in and are interested in exploring workforce housing options in order to accommodate employees, many of which engage in kind of these unsustainable means of traveling to and from work, as we're indicating in kind of these graphs below, where we see 80% are driving alone, even though there's a fair percentage that are carpool eligible, and also almost half are able to use existing transit systems. We also see in the graph to the upper right that a lot of the employee residences, they are nearby, but they're also somewhat far away. So you either need to drive or you need to be using one of these like other means of transportation. So workforce housing could potentially provide a more sustainable mode of like getting to and from work. So in addition to this, this kind of like housing situation, we're also proposing a district energy system in order to accommodate this fleet electrification. And we're seeing that kind of this district energy system could not only just serve MARTA, but could also serve the neighborhood that we're proposing here, which would include workforce housing, the creation of this like mixed use car-free neighborhood that's pedestrian friendly, and would serve to bring a diverse mix of use types, buildings, and people onto the site.
The existing site, as we consider, would be something that looks like it's pedestrian hostile and it lacks simple infrastructure such as sidewalks that would allow for human scale occupation. Laredo Drive especially presents itself as a wide open, straight cut through street between North Clarion and East Ponce de Leon. So this condition sort of ends up endorsing vehicles to speed, and it would deter passengers through from lingering on the site. So we couldn't find many people walking along. So we consider these as economic opportunities in terms of looking at how we can reroute the existing Laredo Drive and also enhance economic opportunities along this road condition.
And then we're proposing a complete reconfiguration to Laredo's path and street design that will slow vehicular traffic, introduce a pedestrian safe sphere, which includes an entirely car-free neighborhood shown to the north along East Ponce, and would promote the creation of more economic opportunities for businesses, as well as accommodating a new connection directly across to the proposed farmers market site.
This is the illustrative master plan that showcases the existing MARTA's bus depot. And we can see most of the light industrial character of the space has been enhanced and it has not been changed. And the existing MARTA's bus depot, we thought we had put in place a multi-level parking deck that we hope will serve as an existing on-grade parking for MARTA, and also for the residents of the car-free neighborhood that we are envisioning towards the northern portion of the site. Also, the parking deck could serve as a place for visitors, whoever come visit the site. Just about south of the bus depot is the district energy system facility. We wanted to establish a synergy to achieve a circularity, keeping in mind the bio-waste that might be coming from the farmers market, as well as from the light industrial zone. So next to this, we just showed a preserved space for light industrial in Scottdale. And also the existing trail has been extended to wrap around the site. And we've given importance to green open spaces that tie all the amenities that we're putting in place together. This is sort of the regulating plan, which again shows the newer development having smaller parcels, which would help in promoting smaller and local businesses to thrive. So this is the diagram showing how the existing parcels work and how our proposed parcel layout sort of has smaller and also accommodates for the change in the Laredo Drive to complement the change the DeKalb Farmers Market site is intending to do. So that node's been changed. And yeah.
And this is just kind of indicating where we're seeing the preservation of the existing buildings alongside new buildings. We're hoping that a majority of the existing light industrial buildings are preserved and repurposed for these new future modes of light industrial production, which kind of also feeds into this idea about sustainability in the sense that embodied carbon in these buildings would not be then released into the environment for the sole purpose of creating more new buildings. And this diagram is just kind of showing from our master plan the fronts of these buildings and lots that line all of our newly proposed networks of vehicular and pedestrian streets. Again, kind of foreshadowing this idea that there are a lot of opportunities for storefronts and restaurant spaces inside of these neighborhoods that are being created. And then we just wanted to provide an overview of kind of MARTA on site. This is showing an image kind of from a bird's eye perspective of the MARTA bus depot, showing the proposed parking garage to the left side of this and the proposed district energy facility on the horizon there with the different components that are kind of included in that entire process of creating sustainable energy from biomass. And this is just getting at an idea of how that parking garage could potentially serve both the public, the people who live in the neighborhood, as well as for the buses themselves, and how the buses can continue the kind of circulation they already have on site, and would just, instead of parking on a surface lot, would then be parking within the garage along, well, separated by levels with cars from the public as well as from people in the neighborhood that we're proposing.
So here, from a sustainability point of view, you can see that our project is focusing on a district energy system. And essentially, it is a centralized energy distribution system that provides heating and or cooling to multiple facilities within our specific area. Given solar panels and like battery storage that are also connected to the grid, the system can help control peak loads and peak demands by providing a more efficient and flexible way of meeting the heating and cooling needs, as well as like the electricity consumption needs. So for instance, during like periods of high demand, or the district energy system can draw from multiple sources like the PV panels or like the battery storage to help meet current demand without overloading the existing grid in that sense. So by providing a more efficient and flexible way of meeting energy demand, the district energy system will be more resilient. Our area will be more resilient in general. And that will also take the stress of the existing old power grid. So that being said, the system, I think that was also already mentioned a little earlier, is located right next to the bus stop, and they are going to work together. It's a synergy essentially. So we could hypothetically even use the future electricity or electric buses as storage, electricity storage, or feed produced energy into the bus system.
Okay, and this is a diagram that's kind of showing the synergistic relationship that Max was referring to, showing how food waste and compost, as well as kind of like compostable waste, possibly like wood products, could be brought to this energy system in the form of like biomass, which then could be processed and energy given back to the farmers market, MARTA, the new neighborhood, and the surrounding residential area in the form of energy, heating, and cooling. So this is kind of going back over that, showing the kind of like proposed district energy system service area. We're thinking that, you know, this can provide energy to all of the surrounding businesses in a more sustainable way, and is also providing some level of resiliency in the face of an aging and overwhelmed power grid, which is most certainly going to be increasingly strained in the face of climate change.
This plan sort of illustrates the variety of street characters that are present, showing the car-lite and car-free areas that could encourage a more sustainable mode of transportation within our site, to allow for more walking, biking, and also to provide for nodes for public transit. In particular, the north of the site consists of a more pedestrian-oriented, car-free street network, providing a safe and accessible space for people to move around within the site without any vehicular traffic. We believe that would enable a more healthier way to work, play around the site.
And just getting into more specifically these different routes of transportation, well, of moving around the site. We're starting with the green loop. Here we're kind of showing how in this diagram in the upper right, how this kind of like circles the entire site, and is it taking advantage of an existing dense forest that's been grown along an old freight line. This will provide kind of a great alternative car-free connection between the Stone Mountain Trail, the farmers market, the proposed neighborhood, and existing residential zones. And here we get kind of like that vision about what that could possibly be, showing an occupation along this green trail alongside nature, as well as alongside existing light industrial buildings that potentially could have, you know, murals or canvases for artwork to kind of just be enjoyed as like something for the public. Moving into Laredo Drive. Oh,
We
Danya, I'm
envision
talking over
Laredo,
you. Go ahead.
becoming a street. So this is a section sort of showing how we intend to integrate bike lanes, on-street parking, and plenty of ground floor retail and businesses, as well as spacious sidewalk areas with plantings for pedestrian to sort of enjoy the stroll across the new Laredo Drive. And this is a rendering that begins to get at this vision of how a multimodal mixed-use Laredo Drive could look like.
Yeah, and then going into that neighborhood we keep referring to, this is kind of envisioning that car-free area composed of new residential and mixed-use spaces, providing amenities such as shops, restaurants, and communal park spaces at various scales, with plenty of tree canopy and greenery along the way. So this is showing kind of like a main pedestrian spine that would go track all the way through that neighborhood. And here we kind of have that vision of what an active car-free pedestrian neighborhood could look like. So we see people kind of using that park space. We see street activity, and we also see plenty of like shops and storage spaces, shops and shop spaces along those kind of ground floor levels.
This is a site section, which again shows the ample public space that we aim to achieve, and also showcasing some car-free green spaces that are flanked by these mixed-use units that includes retail, residential, and commercial spaces sort of coexisting together at the same time.
And just kind of like giving a sense of that whole neighborhood. This is a view from inside of what we're seeing to be, we're proposing a new training facility for MARTA on the site that's going to be overlooking all of these new parks and green spaces, shops, restaurants, apartments. And in this view, we're kind of speculating where a worker at MARTA that actually lives in this car-free neighborhood in workforce housing that's been integrated in this entire like development may also be able to see their home from the window of their work. So it's just reinforcing the idea of connectivity and car-free living.
Thank you. That's well.
All right. Comments and questions for Team 3, powering the future with district energy and workforce housing at the for MARTA.
Overall, I think it looks great. I think that's a good layout separation of the different modes and the area impacts. I'm always a devil's advocate, and one, safety is always a huge concern with us. And I think the only flaw that I find in this is the mixing of cars and buses. That's always, we always keep that separated but that's something that can be worked around. So the parking structure is a viable option. To just that operational mix is a safety concern that we'd have to overcome.
What do you think about the district energy as a way to power the electrification of MARTA's fleet, Larry?
That's a great thing. It's having the solar panels supplemented, replaced, so to speak. That is a success out there for us. And with the increasing of EV charging, that's always a concern with the local grid being able to support it. And so, especially with the Avondale Yard in such close proximity, already having a large draw, that our EV bus fleet is going to increase over time rather quickly. And so we're already looking at those energy shortfalls. So this is a great progressive look at that.
I thought the team's idea of also picking up all the bio waste from the expanded farmers market was a really great way to turn waste into energy.
And I especially like the idea of it's a community. It's not just this one block. It is the region, and that's the way things need to be looked at. Agreed.
Yeah, that was really inspiring. Although I might push back a little bit on the food waste. I might want to compost that, Ellen, instead of put it into a biodigester. But you know, there's different options for both.
There's time. There's probably enough to do both.
There probably is enough, actually, when you add it all together. That's a good point. So I think I like everything that's presented here, and that was a good comment from Larry. You know, I think to me the biggest maybe convergence of vision and practicality for DeKalb and for MARTA as an organization is the housing component. I think that was really interesting how the team was able to really compare where the MARTA employees live, and they kind of live nearby. They sort of live in that area, not necessarily like an easy walk or bike or transit ride necessarily, but they are close by. So just the concept of having more opportunities for MARTA employees that really start their day off here to kind of stay, to be able to stay and live and build a community around what is already a very active operation, I think is very exciting, and hopefully maybe kind of reactivating some of these spaces. And then I think also this hopefully is inspiration for, there's several other MARTA controlled properties that are just south of here. So I think elements of what we're putting forward here, I think also hopefully can be considered as we look at sort of those other sites a little bit closer to Avondale Estates and then closer to Decatur. But yeah, overall, I think this is a great master plan. Good job, team.
And I'll piggyback on the housing component and kind of focus in on that. Really excellent work overall, and really love the block structure that you're proposing. I think one thing that frequently comes up, particularly with things like workforce housing, where the budgets might be a little bit tighter, and I know this is not totally the focus here, but I have to mention it a little bit, is that there's a strong emphasis on mixed use, and at lower densities, everyone's first instinct is to say, okay, apartments over shops, and it's 1 or 2 stories of apartments. And just from a feasibility perspective, it's a lot more difficult to build those buildings than it would be to do, say, a 4-story residential building and a 1-story commercial building and have horizontal mixed use across. So would encourage you to think about, as you're providing mixed use within this great block structure that you have, whether that could come horizontally instead of vertically, and maybe make the project a little easier to build.
Great point.
I really enjoyed it. And to Duke from Cul-de-sac, I actually got to visit y'all's Tempe, Arizona site a couple weeks ago, and the term spine jumped out because it was used in cul-de-sac, and I really enjoyed you describing, and also the visual image of that spine within the neighborhood that you're proposing. So and also just the incorporation of the walking trails and the nature into it as well. And it's not just this area that you specifically mentioned, it connects to other parts of the outlying neighborhoods and into going into the Stone Mountain Trail and whatnot. So just really thought that was a great point to bring in and keep with your project. So thank you.
All right. Thank you all very much. We're going to close it out with Team 4.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Team 4 is working on the MARTA rail site and down closer by the Avondale station along Ponce. All right.
Can you see the full screen, or is it?
No, we're seeing presenter view. We're not seeing the full screen.
Okay. How about now? Is it still
No,
going?
I think what I
Yeah, I think that's
there you go. Yep.
yeah. Hello everyone. We are Team 4. Our site is situated. It's kind of sandwiched between the DCAB Farmers Market and the Avondale Motor Station. Before we begin, allow me to introduce ourselves. I'm Subhash. I'm an urban design grad student, and
Hi everyone, I'm Negar and I'm MSUD student.
I'm Isaiah Wilson. I'm an architecture student.
okay, so our proposal is to change the automobile character of the intersection of East Ponce Leon and Decap Industrial Way, which you can see as the orange circle at the intersection. We plan to change this character by proposing a vibrant mobility hub that also doubles as a public space. So this intersection is kind of, it divides this our site into like 4 distinct quadrants, and we plan to like bring these quadrants together by reviving a hidden trail, which has a creek, and by introducing apartments introducing like affordable apartments throughout these sites.
Okay, our site is zone 4. We thought our zone is one of the important part of this Scottdale because it's like the portal and entrance to other part of the Scottdale by the East Ponce Street, which is like the main transportation corridor. And it is the nearest, zone 4 is the nearest part of the Scottdale to MARTA stations, especially the Avondale station. And if we can have the good connection between this station into our site, we can have a car-free and walkable neighborhood in the Scottdale. Next. One of the important feature of our site is the intersection in the middle of our site that has separated our site into 4 different with unique features parts. This intersection is by the East Ponce Street and DeKalb Industrial Way. The other important feature of our site is it has the MARTA rail yard nearby, and also the MARTA has the property near it that is a good potential for have development there. But the problem is this site is not walkable because the condition of the sidewalks is not good. And also it doesn't have that much public spaces, green spaces, and the only green spaces is the dense vegetations around our site. And it's not walkable because of the parking lots in the frontage of the Ponce Street and also the low density of buildings there. Next. And these pictures are presenting the condition of sidewalks and the edge of the Ponce Street, which is not activated, and also the hidden potential of eco trail near these green spaces.
So coming to the topography, so the MARTA rail yard and the North Arcadia Avenue, as you can see on the top right corner, they are like 20 to 30 feet conveniently above the level of East Ponce de Leon. So it creates a bathtub effect and also creates like a distinct boundary to our site without any streets or anything going that way. So it kind of helped us to identify how to negotiate these edges in terms of public spaces, in terms of connectivity. So it kind of helped us to navigate our design through the topography, and also later configure it in terms of stormwater if that will be helpful, since this is forming like a bathtub. So to summarize the issues of a site, the intersection kind of distinctly divides our site into 4 parts, and we subsequently found one opportunity for each of these things. For the intersection, we thought we have proposed a mobility hub at the intersection, and there are not many public venues, public spaces in our site. Only the nearest ones are almost like half a mile away. And our plan for that was to like incorporate or the green infrastructure and to maximize the efficiency of parcels to increase the density. So before we get into the design, we just want to like go through the project outcomes of this proposal. So one of the main bases of our project is to use the existing parcel lines. So although we weren't able to like preserve some of the existing buildings, what we did was to take the existing parcel lines and form blocks and parcels around it. In this way, for new developments to happen, it'll be much easier for multiple owners to come and invest in these developments, and it's easier to execute these in phases. And also, when we do that, the density in these zones it's drastically increased, and it helps with balancing the overall walkability and the neighborhood's image in this area. And one of the things that we really achieved was to change the character of these streets. This portion of East Ponds was a deadbeat street, but now with all these development coming in, it'll be a bustling commercial street. And towards the edges, we'll be introducing ecological strips. And in the middle, there'll be a much more neighborhood-friendly streets. And towards the decab industrial way, it'll be focusing much towards the leisure side of things. And this is how our regulated plan looks like. And if you can notice, we have provided most of the larger parcels towards away from the East Ponds, since we want to have multiple owners and smaller parcels along the East Pond so that there's a lot of activity and opportunities for retail that can take place. And towards the top, we have retained most of the existing parcel lines, since those are the dog amenities that are happening there. And Negar will take you through the design.
Okay, at the beginning of our semester, we had a meeting with stakeholders and city planners of Scottdale, and it was really important for us to add their ideas and concerns in the process of our designs. For example, they wanted to have the sustainable neighborhoods, that the condition of sidewalks or the light of the street would be better than now, or to make it a safer place for walk there. And also, it was really important for them to retain the natural feature of their neighborhood. Next. So these are the strategies that we decided to have in the process of design. At first, we wanted to have the eco trail near the green spaces around our site and have developed our residentials and development near that. The next one is the intersection, and use this intersection to have mobility hub there and have better connection to other parts of the neighborhood. The next one is have more density, especially around the Ponce Street, to activate the environment of that place, and have the car-free neighborhood and residential areas in order to reduce the carbon emissions there, and encourage residents to walk more and try different type of transportation there. And we propose more walkable and car-free streets there, and also have more development on Marta Rail Yard and Marta site. Next. And this is our proposal for the Zone 4, and it's our master plan. And as you see, the red line is the eco trail, and which is connected to our neighborhood. And the start point of the eco trail is the number 1, which is our plaza, and we try to connect these place to other part of the neighborhood by the stairs and ramps, which is connected to Publix and the parking there. And we have stores, cafes, and restaurant around it. And also we propose a parking near these retail and stores. In number 6, we have a sub-mobility hub, the small scale mobility hub there. And number 4 is our car-free residential area. Number 5 and 8, we have the recreational centers with the sports and playing areas. And this area is connected to the mobility hub number 6, which is connected to dog park number 9. And we try to keep the dog businesses there, and we keep all of the buildings there. So whenever you are walking, you are waiting for the bus or car, you can see the dogs that are playing there. And the buildings behind is the existing antique shop there. And we have the stores which are about the art things there. And number 3 is the existing building that we try to make it as a parking. And number 4, all of them are residential car-free areas near the Eco Trail and also Marta rail yard. We try to make a strong and interconnected network and framework that all the streets are connected to each other. And also we wanted to have a proper size of the blocks that be sure that these areas would be safe and walkable for residents there. This diagram is showing the car-lite zone and car-free zones. That car-lite zones are near the places that we need that there are lots of retails and shops there, and we need parking there. And car-free zones are the residential area and near the Eco Trail. And we had a strategy to have to put mixed-use buildings around the East Ponce Street to activate the atmosphere of that street. And also we have the residentials and housings near the Eco Trail and Marta side, and have the stores and restaurants near the plaza. And we propose more public places that encourage people to communicate there, like the plaza, like the recreational center, like dog park and Marta Park. And all these areas are connected to each other with the car-free and green streets.
So apart from creating connectivity within the site itself, this framework kind of allows the neighborhood also to access this zone via multiple points. Like Negar mentioned earlier, on these edges, we would have created all these plazas that steps down into the site, despite the topographical differences. And even from the public parking, like people can access. And with the new development, people will be able to access towards the Marta side as well. And we laid the street grid in a way such that all the streets from the East Ponce is leading towards the Eco Trail. Because right now the condition that it is, if you're walking there, you wouldn't know that there is a creek on the edge. So that was one of our main goals to achieve in terms of connectivity and walkability. And we of course kept the Stone Mountain Trail in mind, and right now it's a bit of a space crunch in terms of lane division. So we put the East Ponce on a road diet so that the Stone Mountain Trail can be free flowing by itself. And also all these new developments are bikeable. And the smaller blue circles that you see are the bike racks that is distributed along this neighborhoods. And this is a section that is cutting through the Eco Trail and the East Ponce. And as you can see, there is a seamless connection from the East Ponce towards the edge of this topographical difference. And people can just walk through, and it's a public space and can take a walk in the evening. And it's a nice place to relax. And in terms of lane division of East Ponce, so the edge 2 lanes of a buses, which will directly lead to the mobility hub, and all the lower floors are going to be retail. And on the right side towards the Mata yard, there is a level difference of 10 feet. So the first 10 feet will be retail, and the next 10 feet will be office. So it kind of creates a very nice mixed use experience, and also helps towards the transit-oriented development. And this is a view overlooking from the plaza, from from the public's parking towards the plaza and the eco trail. And on the right side is where people from the apartments and houses spill over. And this is a walk towards the eco trail, and on the left side you can see the existing creek, and we have kept the houses as close as possible to the trail so that even affordable housing, they have access to like good quality public spaces. And this is a view overlooking the football courts, which will be showing in the next view. So this is a section from the decab industrial way towards the public parking. This kind of shows the type of density that we're trying to achieve and the type of housing heights that we are proposing. And it starts from the dog park, so one can get down at the mobility hub, pet the dogs, and then get all the way to their favorite restaurant. And this is like the overall density that we are proposing. And most of the high density we are trying to like keep towards the edges, like you mentioned earlier. And all the smaller townhouses will be placed towards the East Ponce de Leon, which will all lead towards the mobility hub in the center. And all these recreation zone, which has like multiple basketball courts and tennis courts. It's like a nice payload space for this entire development, and it caters to the local community and also connects to the neighboring ones. And these are the type of building typologies that we looked into. And most of these on the edges are the tallest ones with the maximum of 5 floors. And the ones that are closer to the East Ponds will be a maximum of 3 floors. And in between them, we explored the missing middle housing types, which has triplex apartments, mansions, and basically low, high, and high density housing. And the good thing is most of these new developments are car free, so it's going to be like a very vibrant neighborhood. And moving into the details of Mobility Hub, Isaiah would be taking you through the main Mobility Hub that we had converted into a public space.
Right, so for Mobility Hub, in order to promote the individual lifestyles of the residents of Scottdale for generations to come, and connect them to adjacent communities, we have proposed a neighborhood at the central intersection of our site with a sub-hub further a few minutes walking distance south down East Ponce de Leon Avenue. At the first, this view, this diagram is showing the first floor of our mobility hub with East Ponce de Leon and the adjacent street crossing through. And on the first floor, we have 2 MARTA pickup and drop off locations, one on the East Ponce de Leon and one tucked adjacent to the EV charging lot. And that drop off also integrates a via pickup and drop off that also integrates the rideshare options that are under the umbrella. This also has restrooms and areas for seating and productivity. Next slide. And so the second floor of the mobility hub further provides amenities that bolster the functionality of the hub. In addition to the business around, there's a child care center and as well as a senior care center. And then we have a programmable flexible space that we envision functioning as a potential MARTA station soccer pitch or a shared office flex space. And then the dog park, is on the first level adjacent to the pickup and drop off location so people can view the activity in the dog park. And this is a view looking north up Ponce de Leon Avenue from across one of the intersections, showing the entrance to the mobility hub and the pickup and drop off lane with the dedicated, the pick up and drop off lane and the entrance to the mobility hub. And view in between the other pickup and drop off lane and the dog park, just showing the space that's presented with this arrangement of amenities and features. And another more intimate view of looking inside the hub from one of the that same pickup and drop off location.
And moving on, so one more thing that we explored apart from proposing into this framework is that even though this is a self-sufficient network framework by itself, we explore the possibility of building on top of the MARTA rail yard. We had a conversation with MARTA earlier during a semester, and they said we could explore the potential possibility of that. So we were trying to like establish a connection from the east side to the west side of the site. And initially, we started off with the basic connection of the roads. And one important aspect that we focused on was to increase the density, because to tap into the transit-oriented development of this neighborhood. And while we go vertical, it was also important for us to explore into the type of vertical public spaces that we could possibly give. And if they are given, what kind of treatment are these structures are going to have, so that that kind of incorporates with the framework that we have already created. And so this is kind of like the overall future vision for a project, which kind of is integrated within the new and the old system. And this is the view that is visible from the MARTA yard to the MARTA rail yard. So this is the kind of density that we thought we could like explore into. So overall, we have reached the end of our presentation, and this proposal mainly aims to retrofit the intersection and increase the overall density and walkability of the zone. That's it from us. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Team 4. So questions and comments?
This is really wonderful work, y'all. Particularly your 2D, but also your 3D graphics are really sharp. Really like the way that you're sort of structuring the relationship between your mixed-use buildings, your more residential buildings. Like I harped on with the last group, I think 3-story mixed-use buildings, occasionally have their place, but want to be sparing with those. And also want to encourage you to think a little bit more about the relationship of the eco trail to its users, and whether that's totally a recreational space or a means for transportation. And if it's a means for transportation, what the really circuitous route means. So of course, recreation, folks just want to go for a walk, that's great. But if you're late to work and you're on a bike, sometimes it can be frustrating to be making lots of zigzags. And one other thing that I mentioned during the mid-crit, and I will mention again, I saw a 12-foot street in a street section. Please, please, please have a copy of the NACDO Urban Street Design Guide. We are the people in the whole equation of this stuff that are here to advocate for better streetscapes that prevent people from dying in traffic due to speeding, due to bad roadways. And making sure that streets are narrow is a really key portion of that. But not to be overly dramatic in it on that note, I think really excellent project, y'all. Thanks.
Thank you.
Great point, Duke. And an easy fix.
This is Larry. I like the way that you use the topography to your advantage, taking advantage of the different levels, and that helps separate the industrial side to your development side of the house. So that works out pretty good there.
Also, I'd say in this area, it's just, trying to think of other places for people to gather. I just loved having seeing the soccer fields and the incorporation of the trail from other projects, just into a giant, wonderful project from teams 1 all the way through 4. So the idea of being able to, start at, I forget the name of this road at the top where the Publix is, like as you drive into this all the way to Patricia's site is just be wonderful to see this move forward. And I do enjoy this density, especially for that area and the use of space. I love the towers for workforce housing initiatives. I think that would be a fascinating and wonderful thing to see.
So Zach, how about that mobility hub? Sorry to always only hit you with questions on the mobility hubs, but you are our expert on those. Is Zach still with us? Maybe we lost him. I think we lost him. I mean, how about, I'd love to hear it. Others, just thoughts on the mobility hub, combining multiple levels of activity, integrating, really transforming that intersection. What do you think? Is Scottdale ready for that?
Yes. Well, I think that actually, on a side note, I did like the addition of the dog park because there's like 3 like veterinary clinics right there. So good job on the team on our tour, noticing what was already happening. And there's that nice little Waller's coffee shop where we met, right across the street. So I think this is a good job of integrating sort of what's already existing. The only crazy thought I had is I guess this area is like a maintenance facility. Is it like truly like a maintenance? There's no way we could actually have another MARTA station here. That's probably more for the MARTA folks.
You are correct.
Okay. All right. You can always dream though.
Right.
But
I don't know if you know that we actually split the station. We up an aerial to go around this thing, so it's our eastbound, westbound are 2 separate structures split. So it'd be interesting to try to put an infill station in. We actually looked at one to the north of this facility at one time, so it's out there.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I think that's good feedback, Larry, and I think that's kind of maybe more sort of why the idea of the mobility hub, the microtransit, is so important for Scottdale, because we've got just a little bit down the road there is the Avondale station, and so I think that kind of integration with right coming into the city of Decatur, and the ability to access the rail line, I think probably to me is the biggest asset here. And yeah, and the only other comment I had is just I like the idea. I mean, I love the idea of putting trees on the rooftops. I suppose that's been done somewhere else. Is there inspiration for that tree covered awning terraced type architecture, or is that just completely like you just came up with that out of thin air?
We did refer to one. I can't recall the name, but there was one project in Denmark done by a firm called MVRDV, and we were just kind of like inspired from that. Yeah.
In Denmark.
There's also quite a bit of it in Kuala Lumpur and Singapore. One sees quite a lot of green on the balconies, essentially.
I love it. I think that's great. I want to see more rooftop gardens and rooftop farms, Ellen. I love it. Great inspiration.
Right. Well, I don't want to hold anyone up. It's 4:30. It has been so really, really gratifying. I think for me personally to, I want to thank the students. I think I know it's really, you've had a lot to wrestle with. Each of the sites presented quite different challenges. And I was particularly thrilled with just how different each scheme is, but how they actually really knit together to make, I think, a much more diverse and really interesting and compelling place for Scottdale. So I want to thank Commissioners Terry and Bradshaw for their support and helping us out in the studio. I want to thank Microlife Institute and Will and Erica Absolutely essential to helping to bring community members. Thanks to all of you. It's also to have the expertise of both Marta and Via. We couldn't have done this without you, and thank you for pushing us when we needed to be pushed a little bit more. It's also just been a great pleasure, as always, to work with the DeKalb Planning Department. So I look forward as I said, we will be publishing these, assembling them as studio reports and publishing them on the Georgia Tech Library's digital archive, which is called Smart Tech, and I'll send out links. But they'll be downloadable. They'll be big files, but they will be downloadable from that site or just viewable. And they're also even Google searchable from that site. So I think I'm passing the baton at this point back to DeKalb County and Scottdale residents to hopefully have some conversations and see where and how, what steps might you take next to start trying to realize what you thought was useful in any of this. So I just want to say a big, great big thank you to everyone.
And thank you.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Ellen. Thank you, everyone. Really appreciate all your hard work.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely. All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.